Folks, how's it going? HeirofCarthage here, and welcome back to the channel. I want to bring you something like truly sinister, something that on the face of it is probably one of the most evil acts ever committed in the history of the world, and that is Rome and Carthage teaming up. That's right, folks. This is like the Greenskins and the Dwarves making an alliance in Warhammer. This is a great grudge and something that can almost never be forgiven, but was so disgusting on the face of it that I had to watch it. We have to see it. We have to see how this turns out. Ancient grudge match here, but turned team. So we have Carthage and Rome facing off against, let's see, Athens. Was this? No, why am I confused? Massaesoli. I saw their banner and was thinking Athens for a minute. Sparta and Massaesoli. So I'm not sure that the Spartans ever did a whole lot of cooperating with the Numidians, but maybe I'm wrong. I am certainly no history fanatic or buff. We have some armored Numidian cavalry here that looks like it's going to square off with some auxiliary Numidian cavalry. I would assume the armored cavalry might be the better of the two here, though both have the same javelin damage. We have some tribal slingers up front for the Massaesoli, and then for Sparta it looks like 4 Gorgo Skirmisher. That's a significant skirmish contingent. We do have some mercenary Balearic slingers here for Carthage, so they also have some firepower, and then the Syrian archers for the Romans, so quite a bit of firepower on both teams from range here. As far as infantry line goes, we have legionary cohorts across the board, I think. Yes, so legionary cohorts all across the board, and I believe that is going to be 7 in total if I'm seeing it. No, 8. 9? Yeah, sorry. Watch me count. I'll be like that count on Sesame Street. Yes, so it's 9 legionary cohorts. 4 Hastati and a legat and a bodyguard here. So very little cavalry for Rome. Could be interesting to see how they might protect their flank if there is a significant cavalry threat. There is on the other side. We have the armored Numidian riders, which are competent shock cavalry, including the general there. For Carthage, let's check out the infantry line. We've got Samnites, Libyans, Samnite, Libyan, Gallic, Samnites, Iberians, Scutari up front. And some Gallic warriors as well. So Carthage is a nice mixture of infantry, Iberians in the back for some cavalry protection, because they do have extra javelins for a sword unit. There is some mercenary Numidian cavalry that is doing some skirmishing up front with Sparta, and this one probably just sealed its own fate here. It might be able to escape, but I don't think so. But it did manage to pin down the Gorgo skirmishers long enough to buy some time for the Carthaginian Balearic slingers to move up, so we will see whether that pays off. And then here is the Numidian on Numidian fratricide going on in this engagement. Looks like a Roman legion peeling off to face in that direction as well. Or a cohort, I should say, not an entire legion, but a legionary cohort. We've got the Gallic warriors here fending off the citizen cavalry, which strikes back and gets a pretty effective hit on those Balearic slingers. The Gorgo skirmishers, on the other hand, took very little damage in the initial skirmish with that Numidian cavalry, whereas the citizen cavalry is quite possibly going to KO that slinger. It may not, but it did a very good job of making it far less combat effective. So let's take a look at the rest of the army here. The Spartan, let's take a look. We got a Heroes of Sparta on that flank, and looks like a Royal Spartan on the other flank. And then we got Perioikoi hoplites in the main line. And in the back, we've got more Royal Spartans and a Hero of Sparta. Perioikoi peltast supporting a Spartan youth up the flank, and then those citizen cavalry. And then for the Massaesoli, we've got some desert legionaries mixed in, I'm assuming, with, desert cohort. And then there are some desert vigiles and armored Numidian riders that we mentioned earlier in the light infantry. So that is our total army, and Carthage and Sparta are having words here. If by words I mean swords. Not to be confused with S-words, which was a classic category on Celebrity Jeopardy on SNL, if that doesn't date how old I am. In any case, we've got an engagement going on here between some Samnites and the Perioikoi hoplites. Samnites would win this, but there are a lot of other factors at play right now, which includes heavy fire coming in from the Gorgo skirmishers, so I do not imagine the Samnites are going to trade very effectively there because of that. And Carthage is going to need to put some pressure in the return on Sparta, and right now they are not. Their Balearic slingers are just not in position to return fire. So I'd be curious to see how that turns out. Otherwise, we do have Libyans now engaging a Desert Legionary, a Perioikoi hoplite, and some riders here, the light Gallic infantry was hit, and a Roman legion coming to join them. So that Desert Legionary getting a look at the real deal here as they clash with their doppelgangers. The Romans not very pleased that their ideas are being copied on the battlefield. No doubt there will be an infringement lawsuit coming soon in the ancient court. I guess this is the ancient court, right? The battlefield. This is how they settled those differences. So we'll see who gets to come out as the victor and claim the prize. Legionary cohort clashing with Desert Legionaries here as well. And then that Desert cohort is going to meet its Legionary companions. They took a face full of Pila. They're going to deliver some of their own at point-blank range here as well. The Roman unit should be superior on pretty much all counts. It does look like the Desert cohort actually has higher morale and base melee defense, which is pretty impressive. They might actually be better than the Romans. I don't know how you copy a cohort from someone and make it better, but I guess they did. Numidians figured it out. They got the right formula. The Samnites are punishing that periodically. Hoplite and Carthage is holding quite a few troops in reserve. Sparta is doing a little maneuvering over here to put their Gorgo skirmishers out on the flank. See what turns of that. These tribal slingers still trading shots. Looks like with the Syrian archers, the Syrians would probably rather not be trading shots with those units, ideally, because the Syrians are quite expensive and the tribal slingers are not. The Syrians will dish out tons of damage, but in these rather blocky formations, those tribal slingers will easily get their money's worth up against those expensive Syrian units. So we'll see how the Romans do here. They are in engagements, but we did see that the... looks like here the Desert Legionary is honestly basically the equal of the Legionary cohort, which is pretty insane. I think there's just like a 10 armor difference, and then the Desert cohort was actually better than the Legionary cohort. However, the Roman has extreme numbers on their side here. However, there's some cavalry work going on over here too. The Postati are trying to fend them off, and here comes the Roman bodyguard to assist as well. So we'll see. Right now, it's not going swimmingly up front for the Romans. They are losing an archer here too, and not causing all that great of damage in return. But remember, the Romans did lend a couple of cohorts into this fight. We've got Perioikoi hoplites coming in here as well. Looks like Sparta very much holding their elite troops in reserve, which I think is a smart move. Bring those troops in late and make it be very difficult for the enemy to pull them apart. So it looks like Sparta targeting those Samnite warriors, and Carthage trying to hold back there. Let's continue to watch and see how this one unfolds. Carthaginian bodyguard rolling around here. They're in trouble now, the bodyguards are, because these armored Numidian cavalry are now a very real threat on this flank. The Syrian archers could help fend them off as long as those cavalry protected them from a charge. And then over here, the Postati are getting shredded now by the slingers. There's too many targets for the archers, and they can't hit them all at the same time. This Roman infantry blob is a little bit wasted at the moment, and now the Spartans have come in to help protect those tribal slingers. So I think Carthage and Rome have a bit of a problem in the sense that they haven't dealt with the enemy skirmishers, and those enemy skirmishers are starting to take a pretty extreme toll. Iberian swordsmen and Scutari. Looks like the Scutari and Iberian swords now pushing for the Peltist. They'll never catch these guys, but if they turn away, they will take a back full of javelins. It's not going to be great, and then there's a Royal Spartan out there protecting them. If I had to take a guess right now, I kind of feel like Sparta and Messaisli are doing okay. However, that said, there's a lot of Roman infantry left. However, you've also got a lot of really tough Spartan hoplites left over there. You've got a fair number of slingers left on the battlefield as well, which can definitely be a big danger to armor. The Syrians are here too, but they fire faster, and they will run through their ammo faster. And they're usually not as much of a late-game threat unless they came into that late game with a substantial amount of ammunition. Samnite warriors and Libyans here to take on the heroes of Sparta. And those heroes of Sparta are going to be very tough units, but Samnites are quite resilient as well, and they'll put up a stout fight. I would think the heroes would win that, but I'm not 100% certain. But I would guess that the heroes would win that without other factors coming into play, which they very well could, because this is an active battle, of course. Desert Legionaries here performing pretty well. The Legionary cohort certainly being outperformed in this vicinity by their Desert Lessers. But I said Desert Lessers, but who's the lesser when you just lose the fight, right? This legionary cohort's being pursued by a Perioikoi hoplite. Looks like some of the slingers finally got some pressure into them. That's going to be the Carthaginian cavalry helping with that. But it looks like the Numidian cavalry is finishing off a bodyguard for Carthage. However, the Roman bodyguard may tank that one. So, pretty good fight by the Roman bodyguard. That's a pretty close fight, honestly. It could depend on a few factors here. We still got Peltast. I don't know how much ammo they have. The Gorgo skirmishers are still firing away. They're doing very nice damage into that Libyan infantry. And that Royal Spartan's already going to be probably too much to handle for the Libyan infantry. Look at this here. Mercenary Balearic Slinger being charged down by a cheap Spartan youth. It definitely needs to run away. I don't know if it can stay in front of him, depending on how tired it is. It didn't quite get an early enough run, so we'll see. But both teams really grinding on each other here. That Perioikoi hoplite right here is in a terrible position. They are going to feel the full wrath of the Roman war machine here. Boy, don't the Romans look stylish in that segmented armor. The Roman segmented armor is just chef's kiss. It is really some awesome armor. I don't know if there's anything more iconic in history other than like samurai armor in terms of armor that is so identifiable. So here we go. These Royal Spartans now really taking over that fight with the Libyans, especially with those Peltasts. Looks like there are some Gallic warriors coming back in. Those could be helpful, and the Balearic Slingers did escape. These ones are running away at this point. They don't want to get too far away from the battlefield, honestly, but that Peltast is chasing them, so I can see why they're retreating. There's a lot of big-time tough Spartans left on the battlefield, and I think it's going to spell disaster for the Roman-Carthage alliance potentially here. There's not a ton of legionaries left at this point for the Romans. There are some, and it'd be enough to give some fits to those Spartans, but I don't know if it's going to be enough to kill them, unless those Balearic Slingers can get in here and really stick it to those Royal Spartans. But right now they're being pursued rather effectively by this Peltast. It's a light missile infantry, and with these Balearic Slingers being tired, it very well could catch them. And it will certainly defeat them in a melee. And then the youths, again, this is a money well spent to drive off these Balearics, and with no cavalry, there's really nothing Rome can do about this. Or Carthage, for that matter. In fact, there just went the Roman bodyguard. We'll see if that Roman discipline holds. And let's just check some of these fights. That is a Perioikoi. Those Syrian archers certainly got to spend most, if not all, of their ammunition here, which is definitely what you want from an archer unit. Look at this Gorgo skirmisher just firing into the mercenary Samnite warriors. That Samnite warrior can't possibly catch them. He got led into a goose chase rather than just kind of participating in these fights back here. It looks like the Balearic Slingers still trying to avoid those Peltasts. One unit peels off, so the player will either need to micromanage that or hope that the skirmish doesn't get his units killed. Very well could. Charge here from the armored Numidians. Not enough quite to rout the Syrians, but in this vicinity the Roman infantry is being broken. It had been in a pretty solid position, but it got reinforcements from these Royal Spartans, and those Perioikoi hoplites were able to fight their way out as a result. So not much hope left, I don't think, for the Roman-Carthaginian alliance at this point. They don't have the infantry to stop this pursuit of the Slingers. The Slingers were their only hope at shredding through some of these remaining elite hoplites, and so it does look like that Sparta and the Messaisli are going to punish this unholy alliance of Carthage and Rome. Though I have to admit, it was very entertaining to watch, seeing Carthage going hand in hand with Rome in this battle. Definitely very entertaining to watch. You know what could have been a cool combination between Rome and Carthage, actually? It would have been if the players deployed close enough to each other and then redeployed where Carthage used like hoplites and pikes to protect their own skirmishers, and then let the Roman infantry fill in any gaps that form in the pike lines, and like see if you could use the flexible Roman troops to make the Carthaginian pikes actually effective. And if you could win a skirmish fight, which would have been tricky, but possible, if they could have won a skirmish fight such as that. Like, so for instance, let's say that both the Roman and the Carthaginian had brought Balearic Slingers. They could have put up a pretty effective fight, and it would have been interesting to see the Spartans then have to try and break a box of Roman infantry, Carthaginian pikes potentially. And even if the Roman and Carthaginian slingers could have just worn down the enemy slingers enough to where they didn't have enough ammo to break the box, then you could have ended up in an interesting thing again, where the Spartan infantry was trying to break a very nice heavy infantry box, which could be quite difficult. These Samnite warriors, they really don't have anywhere to go. The Gorgo skirmishers are just going to turn around and take this charge. The Samnite warriors are going to mercilessly slay these Spartan women. But the Royal Spartans are going to make them pay for that. Here comes that rear charge. I would imagine the Samnites are not going to like that a single bit. Yep, and there they go. So that is going to be a costly victory for the Spartans in the Massaisali. So congrats to Hotel Soap and G-Rom, but nicely played by Achilles and Myrda here. So appreciated this one. It was a lot of fun to watch. For Sparta, we did see some pretty good performance out of a couple of these Gorgo skirmishers. The elite infantry was held till late in the game, and it paid dividends. When you can do that as Sparta, they become very difficult to take down because the remaining units are tired. They've lost some of their health, and it gets very difficult to take on these high armor Spartan units in that type of condition. Carthage, I think, initially had a few decent engagements. Their slingers, though, were just not able to push back hard enough against those Gorgos, and it just ended up being tough. And then when we look at, the Massaisali here, a solid performance out of all these armored Numidian cavalry that was well played there. And honestly, a pretty decent performance out of these Desert Legionaries as well. It's kind of sad to see the Romans getting out-Romaned by the Massaisali, but I guess that's that desert power creep there. But nonetheless, we had a pretty good performance out of many of the Roman Legionaries as well. And the archers actually got some pretty good damage in theirs too. And for Carthage, if we look at the key units here, looks like a couple of these Samnites did some very nice work there. And then the mercenary Numidian noble cavalry, sorry, I got stuck on that mouthful. I did a pretty good job, as well as one of the Libyans. So thank you to all the players. Appreciate it. Hope you all enjoyed it. HeirofCarthage signing out for now. I'll see you soon with some more action in Total War Rome 2.